Have you ever thought about how, like, when we look back at the way they did?
Oh, absolutely. I think about that all the time.
Yeah, and so we were just thinking about Zimbabwe, and it really makes you wonder, who are some of those figures in Zimbabwe's history, people whose contributions might not be as widely known, but were still really important, in shaping the country.
Right, those kind of behind-the-scenes but essential figures.
Exactly, and that's what we are going to do in this deep dive today, explore one of those stories.
It's fascinating.
We're focusing on Michael Mawema, a Zimbabwean nationalist and politician.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he was actually a founding member of not one, not two, but three key political parties. The National Democratic Party, or the NDP, ZAPU, and ZANU.
Wow, 3 major parties. That's quite a legacy.
It is, and it really speaks to how deeply involved he was in the movement for independence.
I'm already intrigued. I have to admit, I don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? To uncover these stories that might not be as familiar.
Definitely.
So, to dig into Mawema's life and work, we've been looking at a transcript from a YouTube video by HakuStream called Who is Michael Mawema?
Okay, a good starting point.
It is, and I think you'll find it sheds some light on his journey and why he's someone worth knowing more about.
I'm eager to hear more.
The goal here is to really bring to light what were Michael Mawema's key contributions? How did his actions have an impact on Zimbabwe's path? And, ultimately, we want to shine a light on figures like this, whose contributions might sometimes be overshadowed by the bigger names.
It's so important to recognize those foundational figures, the ones who laid the groundwork.
Absolutely. Without them, the big picture wouldn't be the same, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Where did Michael Mawema's story begin?
Well, he was born in Gutu on July 13th, 1928.
Gutu.
And he went to a few different schools in that region, ultimately finishing Standard 6 at Gutu Mission School in 1945. But what's interesting is that he actually received a scholarship from the B Trust for teacher training, which, even back then, shows that people recognized his potential.
Oh, that's a good point. So he was already being identified as someone with promise, even at that early stage.
It seems so.
Interesting. So after he finished his teacher training, what did he do?
He started his teaching career in 1948 at Chingo School and was there for a couple of years before moving to Mzilikazi Government School in Bulawayo in 1951.
Okay, so that's when his career path starts to take a turn towards politics.
Yeah, 1951 is a pivotal year because that's when he became the private secretary to Benjamin Barumbo.
And Barumbo, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a really prominent figure in the early struggle for Black rights in what was then Rhodesia, right?
You're absolutely right. He was a powerful advocate.
So for Mawema to be his private secretary for 2 years, that must have been an incredible learning experience.
Oh, without a doubt, he would have been right at the heart of the movement, seeing firsthand how to organize and mobilize people.
And then, in January 1959, he took on another important role, right?
Yes, he became the regional secretary of the Railway African Workers Union.
So, really solidifying his commitment to advocating for workers' rights.
Definitely, and building on that experience of collective action and organizing.
It sounds like he was gaining a really solid foundation in activism and, understanding the power of people coming together to demand change.
Absolutely. Those early experiences were clearly formative for him.
And during this time, he also had the chance to travel outside of Rhodesia, didn't he?
He did. He got a sponsorship to spend 3 months in Israel studying cooperatives.
Cooperatives. That's interesting.
Right. It suggests he was interested in different models of economic and social organization, maybe looking for inspiration on how communities could work together for their collective benefit.
I see. So all these experiences, the teaching, the work with Barumbo, the union involvement, the trip to Israel, they all kind of come together to lead him toward the formation of the NDP.
That's right. All of these threads kind of weave together to shape his commitment to the nationalist movement.
And he becomes absolutely central to the founding of the National Democratic Party in January 1960.
Absolutely central.
And he doesn't just join the party, he steps up right away as its interim president.
That's right, a leadership role from the get-go.
And this is where we get to the moment where a seemingly small act has this huge lasting impact.
Oh, you're talking about the name Zimbabwe.
Exactly. At the rally to launch the NDP, Michael Mawema is the first person to publicly use the name Zimbabwe as the future name of the country.
Wow, I didn't realize that connection. It's amazing to think about how that one moment, him saying that word, would ultimately shape the identity of a nation.
It's really incredible, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you think about the power of language and how individuals can spark these really significant shifts.
So how did the name Zimbabwe come about? Like, were there other names being considered at the time?
There were actually, according to Jeffrey Herbst's book, 0 Hour, which talks about the nationalist movement at that time, there was a lot of discussion about what the name should be.
Okay, so Zimbabwe wasn't just like a given, it emerged from those discussions.
Right, exactly. And Mawema himself actually recalled that names like Macho and Mano Mutapa were also being tossed around.
Huh, interesting. I wonder what the country would be like today if it had been called Macho.
It's hard to even imagine, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the same ring
Not
to
at
it.
all.
But Zimbabwe clearly resonated, and the historical record really points to Mawema as the one who brought it to the forefront.
So historian Lawrence Vombe specifically credits Mawema with introducing the name, and this was later confirmed by Edison Zvabgo, the late lawyer and politician, in a 2001 interview.
That's right. So there's a pretty strong consensus that Mawema played that pivotal role in shaping the country's identity, even before it was officially independent.
It's a great example of how sometimes these seemingly small actions, like suggesting a name, can have these really profound and lasting consequences.
Absolutely. It's a reminder to never underestimate the power of ideas and symbols.
So he's deeply involved in the NDP. He's the one who puts forward this powerful name, Zimbabwe. And he's also building connections on the international stage during this period, right?
Yes, he went on speaking tours in Europe, sharing platforms with prominent figures like Christopher Chataway and Barbara Castle, who were both British politicians at the time.
Wow, so he's really getting the message out about what's happening in Rhodesia and garnering international support for the nationalist movement.
That's right, and he also shared a platform with Dr. Hastings Banda, who, of course, later became the president of Malawi.
So he's connecting with future leaders, building solidarity across borders.
It shows his commitment to networking and building alliances, which is so crucial in any movement for change.
Okay, so we've got Mawema as a key figure in the NDP. He's the one who brings up the name Zimbabwe, and he's building these international connections. But we know that he was also involved with ZAPU and ZANU. So how does that fit into his journey?
After the NDP was banned, he initially aligned himself with Joshua Nkomo and ZAPU.
Okay, so that was his first move after the NDP.
It was, but then in August 1963, he joined ZANU, marking a pretty significant shift in his political trajectory.
And this is where his organizational talents really come to the forefront, right?
Exactly. At ZANU's Congress in 1964, he was elected as the National Organizing Secretary, a really vital role for any political party, especially one operating under such challenging circumstances.
So what kind of work would he have been doing as National Organizing Secretary?
Well, everything from building the party's structures across the country to mobilizing supporters, coordinating activities, fundraising. I mean, you name it. If it involved getting ZANU organized and effective, he was likely involved in it.
It sounds like an incredibly demanding but also crucial role, especially in that period of escalating political tension.
It absolutely was, and his ability to connect with people and build those grassroots networks would have been invaluable for ZANU.
But his commitment to the movement didn't come without personal cost, did it?
Sadly, no, like many other nationalist leaders, he faced arrest and detention.
And this was in...
He was detained for a while, and then he was released in 1968.
Okay, so he's released in 68, but that's not the end of the story, right?
Unfortunately not. He was then restricted to the Gutu area for 2 years.
Restricted meaning he couldn't leave that area.
Right. It was a common tactic used by the Rhodesian government to try and limit the movement and influence of nationalist leaders.
So even after being detained, they were still trying to control his activity.
Exactly. They saw him as a threat. Someone who could mobilize people and challenge the status quo.
But even after that period of detention and restriction, he doesn't just disappear from public life, does he?
No, he doesn't. And this is where his story takes another interesting turn.
Okay, tell me more.
So once his restriction is lifted, he moves to Salisbury, and he starts working as an insurance salesman.
An insurance salesman? That's quite a shift from being a political activist.
It is, right. But the interesting thing is that he actually becomes very successful at it. Yeah, the Hockey Stream transcript mentions that he was making a very good living within a year of starting in that field, which, really speaks to his resilience and adaptability.
It does. It shows he had this drive to succeed, no matter what challenges he faced.
Exactly. He was clearly someone who could thrive in different environments.
So he's building a new life in Salisbury. But then, in another surprising twist, He leaves Rhodesia rather suddenly in 1972.
That's right. In July of 72, he departs for the United States.
The transcript doesn't go into detail about the reasons for this abrupt departure, but it's clearly another major turning point in his life.
It is, and it's one that I wish we had more insight into what prompted that decision.
Yeah, it would be fascinating to know more about what was going through his mind at that time.
Absolutely.
But even though he's in the U.S., he doesn't just sit back and relax, does he?
Not at all. He actually throws himself into further education.
Really? That's impressive considering everything he'd already been through.
It is. He clearly had this thirst for knowledge and personal growth.
So tell me about his academic pursuits in the U.S.
He enrolls at Clark College in Massachusetts, and in 1974, he graduates with honors, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Wow, and he doesn't stop there.
No, he goes on to get a Master of Education degree, also with high honors, in 1975 from the Interdenominational Theological Center in Georgia and Johnson C. Smith Seminary.
That's incredible. He really made the most of his time in the U.S., intellectually speaking.
He did, and it's worth noting that during this period, he also received recognition for his leadership qualities.
Oh, right. He was awarded the Edwin T. Bush Scholarship for International Leadership in 1974, and then the Johnson C. Smith Achievement Scholarship Award in 1975.
Exactly. So even though he was away from Zimbabwe, his potential and his impact were still being acknowledged.
It really underscores that even in exile, he remained a figure of influence.
It does, and it shows that his commitment to making a difference extended beyond the borders of his home country.
So he's got these new academic credentials, he's being recognized for his leadership, but then what brings him back to Africa?
Well, he returns in mid-1975, and it's not long before he's drawn back into the struggle for Zimbabwean liberation.
I see. So even after all his time in the U.S., that commitment never wavered.
It seems he was appointed as the chairman of the party organization committee of the Zimbabwe Liberation Council, or ZLC.
And at that point, the ZLC was under the leadership of Reverend Ndabani Settle, right?
That's right. So Mawema was right back in the thick of things, working to organize and strengthen the movement.
It's a testament to his dedication that even after all he'd experienced, he was still willing to put himself on the line for the cause.
It really is. And it shows that his commitment wasn't just about personal ambition, it was about something much bigger than himself.
So as we look back at Michael Mawema's life, it's clear he was someone who contributed to the struggle for independence in so many different ways.
Absolutely. He was a teacher, a union leader, a founding member of multiple political parties, an organizer, a fundraiser, an international advocate.
And of course, the person who introduced the name Zimbabwe into the political landscape.
A truly lasting legacy, one that continues to shape the identity of the nation.
The Haku Stream transcript refers to him as a true hero and a great leader who fought tirelessly for Zimbabwe's independence.
A very fitting tribute, I'd say.
And he passed away in September 2000 at the age of 72.
His life really spanned such a pivotal period in Zimbabwean history, and his contributions were so significant, even if they're not always as widely recognized as they should be.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Michael Mawema's story, a few key takeaways really stand out.
What are those?
Well, first, his involvement in the early nationalist movements and the formation of the NDP, ZAPU, and especially ZANU all demonstrate this unwavering commitment to the fight for independence.
Absolutely. He was there from the beginning, laying the groundwork for what was to come.
And then, of course, there's the remarkable fact that he's credited with bringing the name Zimbabwe into the political discourse, a name that ultimately became the official name of the independent nation.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes these seemingly small actions, like suggesting a name, can have these huge unintended consequences.
It's a real testament to the power of ideas and the way that individuals can shape history in ways they might never have imagined.
It makes you wonder what other seemingly insignificant moments have had a profound impact on the course of events.
It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
Definitely. And I think Michael Mawema's story also highlights the importance of recognizing those figures who might not be the most famous or celebrated, but whose contributions were nonetheless essential.
Yes, those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, often at great personal risk, to bring about change.
They might not get the headlines, but without them, the big picture wouldn't be the same.
Exactly. Their stories deserve to be told and remembered.
Absolutely.
So this exploration into Michael Mawema's journey leaves us with a lot to think about. But one question that really sticks with me is, how might the path of Zimbabwe's history have been different if that moment hadn't happened, if Mawema hadn't put forward the name Zimbabwe when he did?
It's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? Would the nationalist movement have had the same resonance? Would the country have rallied around a different name with the same fervor?
And it also makes you wonder, Who are some of the other unsung heroes in Zimbabwe's story? Individuals like Mawema, whose contributions might deserve a much deeper look.
I think there are many stories waiting to be uncovered, many individuals who played crucial roles, but whose names haven't yet made it into the history books.
It's an invitation to keep digging, to keep exploring, and to keep recognizing those whose contributions might not be as widely known, but were nonetheless vital in shaping the Zimbabwe we know today.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on.
It is, on this deep dive into Michael Mawema's life and legacy.